Hello, fellow movie Crusaders, and welcome to our latest episode. My name's Sean Waskrug, and as always, is Brian Michaels. It's been a while since we've done an actual review on the channel, mainly because there just hasn't been anything really worth talking about. And the only other movie that's come out this month that's worth talking about, we're going to be doing a whole other show for here coming out probably this weekend as well, which is Predator Badlands. We are going to be doing an Alien Predator show where we'll talk about that in there. But today, we're going to be talking about a movie that is both in Brian and I's most anticipated films of the year, which we shot all the way back in January. We are talking about The Running Man. This is a remake of, was it 1987?
87 was the Arnold Schwarzenegger version. However, it should be noted, it's kind of like,
yes,
kind of like Bram Stoker's Dracula did with Dracula. This is Running Man going back to the original book by Richard Bachman, aka Stephen King. A much more faithful adaptation to the book, because The Running Man in 1987 was wildly different than what was in the book. I have never read the whole book.
I've never read the book. I never read the book, so I have nothing to really go off of. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I have only seen Arnold's Running Man once, and it was a long time ago. Wasn't it like he got arrested, and this was to get his freedom, was to go onto the show? Was that how it was in Arnold's?
Yeah, he was basically framed for this big crime because he was actually in the military unit. He fought back against. He didn't want to fire on innocent civilians. They deep faked it to make it look like he is the one who fired on all the civilians, and he went to prison. And this was to try and earn his freedom.
I love that deep fake was a thing in 1987.
It was. they were way ahead of their time there.
Yeah,
but this one is supposedly much more faithful to the book. I'm sure there's still some differences. Like I said, I didn't read it, so I don't know.
I know of one big difference. We'll wait till the spoiler discussion.
Yeah. But it's not so much a remake of the other one. Although there are some things that were just in that movie they carried over, just kind of a little fun. So.
But yeah. So this time around, we've got Glenn Powell, our boy, our guy that we were championing before. Many of you even knew who the fuck he was. He's the lead in this. His first real, Twisters was his first real, but that was kind of also like a joint thing with like Daisy Edgar Ridley, but this is his first, I would say, like real legit starring big role. Would you agree? Outside of Twisters?
Well, there's like Anyone But You, but as far as like an action vehicle, yes.
Yeah, like this is like, hey, now I'm the Glenn Powell. That's not just the comedy guy. Now I'm like the fucking Tom Cruise action hero type. But we got Glenn Powell, we got Josh Brolin, we've got Coleman Domingo, Michael Cera. I didn't know he was in it until he popped up in the actual fucking movie. Because I was trying to stay away from the trailers from this for the longest time. But just as important as the cast, Edgar Wright's the director.
I say more important.
For us, Glenn Powell's pretty big, but Edgar Wright is the second biggest part for you and me. We're both huge Edgar Wright fans. I mean, you got Scott Pilgrim versus the World, which you guys all on the channel know how much Brian and I love Scott Pilgrim. Then of course you got your Cornetto trilogy with Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and The World's End, and then of course Baby Driver. And then Last Night in Soho. So we are huge fans of Edgar Wright. I think you and I were both kind of just lukewarm on Last Night in Soho.
I liked it, but I was disappointed by it.
Yeah, I think both of us were really expecting more than what we actually got with that. And I think you and I, I don't know how you felt about World's End. I wasn't crazy about World's End, but I loved everything else he's done.
I like it, but it's definitely the weakest of the trilogy.
I agree. And like I said, all the other ones, Baby Driver, I think I've grown to love. I wasn't crazy about it when it first came out, but now I love it. It was one of those I just had to kind of let it sink in more.
Yeah.
But this was one that I think we were both really anticipating and excited for because it's Running Man, to see if we were going to get that Edgar Wright style, how it was going to work in this futuristic world. As we get it, because like we were saying with Arnold's, he was framed and he was basically, it's kind of like a prisoner who goes onto the game, and if he survives or wins, then he gets his freedom. It's a totally different world aspect where it's actual just a straight up game show where people apply and then basically go through like trials to see what shows work. There's one like where guys run like on a fucking hamster wheel and answering questions. And then Running Man's the most dangerous one, where if you survive 30 days from being hunted, then you win $1 billion.
$1 billion new dollars.
Yeah, $1 billion new dollars. Sorry, it's new dollars. And so that's where Glenn Powell comes in. He's basically this guy who's been kind of blacklisted from his jobs and his career, and they have a hard enough time just trying to get medicine for their daughter who has the flu. You know, apparently buying like NyQuil and shit is too expensive for them. So he auditions not for Running Man, but because of how he does, he gets thrown into Running Man. And basically the main plot of the show is that there's, 3 people in the show. There's, I think, 5 or 6 there's 5 hunters chasing them, but they're out in the world. So anyone out there can spot, them and point them out, and they'll get rewarded like with money for it. So it's basically the whole world looking for this one person, but only 5 people are technically allowed to kill him, but you could kill them if you wanted to, kind of thing. So that's kind of things like they're not criminals. They're treated like criminals, but they're not criminals. They're just people who are trying to win money. But Glenn Powell is the main Running Man in this. So this was definitely one. It was my 8th most anticipated film of the year. It was Brian's. You said 3rd, right?
It's my number 3. Yeah,
it's your number 3 because there was a lot.
It was the combined thing of being the Running Man, which I enjoyed the original movie adaptation as it was. Edgar Wright, who I love, and Glenn Powell. So 3 of those things together made it high up on my list.
Yeah. So this was one that you and I were both eagerly anticipating. More Brian so than even me. But even me, our list was like 60 some movies long, and it was both in our top 10. So going into that, non-spoiler for right now, and then we'll dive into spoiler. Brian, what were your thoughts of Running Man?
So I had a few thoughts. First and foremost, I will just say I enjoyed the movie quite a bit, but I was definitely disappointed because, like Last Night in Soho, I felt like it didn't have any of that signature Edgar Wright style to it as far as the filmmaking or the editing or anything. It felt like a movie that just anybody else could have made. You could have told me there's any other director and I'd be like, I believe it. Because Edgar Wright, up until that now, an Edgar Wright movie. Until you hit Last Night in Soho and now this, where it's kind of like he's kind of, I don't know, just trying to play it straight, I guess. I mean, not every movie's gonna, like Last Night in Soho probably would not have worked with that weird kinetic editing and the style it usually does.
I think that was just more because of the time frame they were in for so.
Yeah, but I think in this movie it really could have worked, and so I thought, he took one movie off from that, but this will be Edgar Wright as we know him, and it wasn't. And it wasn't that he did a bad job directing. It just, like I said, it just didn't. It didn't feel like Edgar Wright. It felt like just anybody else could have directed. So that was my first disappointment with the movie. Number 2, it needed way more Katie O'Brien. We heard she was going to be in this, and we're happy. At Twisters,
that is someone that's also on our board of like someone we're really, really high on.
Yeah, and so I was really hoping to see a lot more of her, but she basically has kind of a scene at the beginning, one small scene, towards kind of the middle of the film, and that's it. It's like she basically is kind of barely in it, along with which Long Island guy was? It was who plays the 3rd guy?
I never can remember his damn name.
He's not even
I'm
showing
looking
up.
it up. Frank. Martin Hurley?
Oh, that was him?
Yeah, he was in Happy Gilmore 2 and Hubie Halloween. And from the Please Don't Destroy People.
Oh, Please Don't Destroy. Yeah, okay. That's my problem. I was thinking
Lonely Island. I was like, who the fuck?
No, that's just it. That got me thinking Lonely Island. I was thinking their names. I'm sorry. So I just brought this thing to a screeching halt. You can edit this out if you want. I don't care.
No, you're fine.
So anyway, those 2 people I wanted to see a lot more of, especially because, like you said, my only familiarity with the story is from the 87 movie, which, like I said, might be very different. But in that one, the other people, you got to see a little bit more of them. They were working together a little bit longer. Here, it's like they met each other before the show started, and then they're separate ways, basically, the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
And so I would have liked to have seen a lot more of her. So I thought that was a wasted opportunity. I think Glenn Powell, who I think did a good job in this movie. I think he does a good job. He can play the funny side. He can play the serious, angry side. He can play all that stuff. He does a good job. I really just want him to stop doing movies where he gets to put on little disguises, because
I remember you saying that. I will defend that aspect because this is really a movie where he really needed that, though.
I get it, but it's like the timing was wrong, because he did obviously a Hitman where he wore 10 different disguises in that movie, which that was my least favorite part of the movie. I'm like, this is just kind of dumb, and I didn't like that, but I'm like, whatever. But then he does Chad Powers, where he's putting on the fake nose and teeth and talking with a funny voice, and it's like, okay, whatever.
Side note: Chad Powers is fucking great, by the way.
I'm watching.
I loved it. Cannot wait till season 2.
And then third, and then he goes and does this movie in which he wears a couple different disguises and stuff, and it's like, okay, can we just please? I know that this is just coincidence, but can you please choose your next projects and not do that, because it's becoming a.
I mean, if you take Twisters out of the equation, then yes, his last 3 things were all disguise movies, basically.
And other than that, I will just say that I like I said, I did enjoy the movie. I thought the action was fun. I thought the moments of comedy they did was fun. I thought, honestly, if I think about any given scene of this movie, I liked it. But I think just as a whole, it disappointed me just because it wasn't what I was expecting, I think. But also in the ending, I feel like kind of falls apart towards the end. So I had an issue with that, but we'll get on that more in spoiler time. But I mean, if you ask me between the two, I probably like him about the same, but I think I would prefer the 87 Arnold Schwarzenegger version, just because that one's just embracing the cheese and the fun of it. Whereas this one, I feel like might have taken itself too seriously.
Yeah, I can't give an accurate which one I prefer, because like I said, I haven't seen the Arnold one in I would say probably at least 10, 15 years, and I barely remember it. I was gonna rewatch it, but then I just I just ran out of time for it, so I can't say which one's better. I, for the most part, agree with you. You liked it more than I did. The best way I can describe it is just like you have someone that is always on. Let's go the athlete side of things. Case in point, most recently, Josh Allen, Buffalo Bills, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Last week, he played fucking awful against the Miami Dolphins, who are one of the worst teams in the league. And it's not that the team that he was playing was so good. It's just he just had an off game. And I felt like Running Man was just that everyone was just having an off movie. This is in my opinion, the worst Edgar Wright movie that he's done, which on that standard, though, it's still not a bad movie. But for Edgar Wright, it's a bad movie. For other movies as a whole, it's kind of like when we say like a bad MCU movie is still better than a lot of other movies. A bad Edgar Wright movie is still better than a lot of other movies. But to me, this is the least Edgar Wright that I've ever seen. I don't feel like there was a single moment in this movie where I saw Edgar Wright's directing. I don't. This is kind of like how you were worried about with Gareth Edwards taking over the Jurassic World Rebirth, where it's like he's not
just a director for hire. Yeah,
he's not going to get to put his style into it, and he's not going to be able to make it. Which the sequel he'll do. I trust it more that time.
But this whole thing was Edgar's idea, so he planned for it. He knew he wasn't thrown into it last minute, so it's like, what's his excuse? I don't know.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. Is that there's no excuse for Edgar in this, but there was never a point in this movie where I felt Edgar Wright's hands in this movie. It felt full on like he had to follow the book, and then he had the studio, and Edgar was just kind of there. Even the style of like the dialogue of the movie, which is always something that's so amazing with Edgar Wright films. The dialogue sucked in this movie. It was not great dialogue for most of this film. There's so many like scenes where I'm just like, really, this was the best take? Because I didn't think that was great. Glenn Powell, like I said, his charisma is just oozing off of him. So even in a bad role, he's still entertaining as shit. So I have really no problem with Glenn Powell, but his role was very uneven at certain points, because you have this guy, he's like, in the very beginning, he's so angry and just like unattainably angry. I can't hold it in. And he has these like moments where he like blacks out and like thinks he's doing damage, and then he's just like back. So sorry, that completely took my throat out when I did that. And then like once he's in the game, which I get it, he's being hunted. It's almost like he got super zoned out and toned down after that point. It wasn't until like 3/4 of the way of the movie I was like, man, they really just kind of abandoned this like really angry dude. And then it's like, oh, we forgot about that. Yeah, let's make him super angry again for the last like 15 minutes, just so that way it ups the ante. Because they completely just abandoned that character trope from him for the rest of the way. Granted, like I get it, he's being hunted, but still, But I agree, Katie O'Brien's completely underutilized because that could have been a lot of fun had they all stayed together because they were building this kind of buddy system between these three during like the tryouts and stuff. And then as soon as the game started, they just no, bye. And it's like, well, then what was the point
Well,
of that?
exactly. It's like I thought they're gonna be like the trio of people who are going to go at least work together for a while, or if they went their separate ways, whatever. And I thought maybe they'd like meet again later. But
same thing with Amelia Jones, who I loved in Coda. She plays Amelia.
I knew she must be somebody, but I had no idea who she was. She's one of the Pirates movies too, but I don't remember who.
I think she's like the mermaid in like Stranger Tides or something.
Oh, but yeah,
like
it's like I felt like she was supposed to be somebody, but I was just like,
she comes in like fucking like third act, late third, and all of a sudden she becomes like a main vital character, and I'm like, usually if you do that, you sprinkle her through the movie so we know who she is. Like maybe she's just someone who posts on social media about how stupid the show is, or something like that. It's just not like she's like there, so when she pops up, you're like, oh, it's that one chick. No, she just shows up, and then all of a sudden she became such a focal point, and it just kind of, I don't want to say it puts a halt on the movie, but it almost just like, what is so important about this person?
Yeah, I felt that you could cut that character entirely, and it wouldn't have mattered.
You could 100% cut that character out of the movie, and the movie is still the same fucking movie. Glenn Powell's character can still get to the same areas without this character, and the movie will still be the same. And this is where it kind of becomes rough, because it's like, is this bad writing on Edgar Wright's part, or is he following the book? Because I don't know the book.
Yeah, that would be the book brings her in the third act. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, if he's following the book, then it's hard to blame him because he's following the material. And that's always hard when you're trying to gauge a movie based on a book, because if it's something that you don't like and it's like, well, that was in the book, it's like, well, then shit, that's not their fault. But sometimes you can cut shit out of the movie that were in the book, so you also have that ability. Case in point, how the actual ending is, which we'll touch more on the spoiler aspect. But to me, this movie was just uneven. There are just some really bad scenes. Oh God, Michael Cera's mother. My God, that acting in that was so atrociously bad, so ungodly bad, that made me go, are we sure Edgar Wright directed this? Because there's no way Edgar Wright would have made this like through. And then there's just certain like story elements where I felt like they were building up to something, and then they just like completely like left it alone, and then they try to bring it back in at the end, and I'm like, this is shit that you have to sprinkle in throughout the movie. It doesn't have to spend a lot of time. Give it like 30 seconds to 3 minutes in the middle of the movie, just so like, hey, remember this, hey, remember this, hey, remember this, just so that way it flows better, instead of like, yeah, here's this thing that happened like 20 minutes in the movie, we're gonna bring it back 2 hours later, and like, okay, cool. It just, I don't fucking care. And that's the bottom line, is I just didn't give a shit about this movie halfway through the film. I'm like I want Glenn Powell to live, but do I give a shit about Ben Richards? No. And they do a really kind of crappy job of building the world around this as well. It's like, because there's just like, all of a sudden it's like, this is staging an uprising, and it's like, well, no, because anything he says, they just kind of, edit it. So it's like, I don't buy this uprising that we're getting. So for me, overall, nothing about this movie really worked. Was I not entertained, though? No, I was entertained, because it's Glenn Powell. Like I said, he keeps me entertained, but I didn't necessarily like what I was seeing. So for me, it's a very, very, very low 3-star. Very low. And I agree, the ending didn't work for me either. But what did you end up giving it score-wise?
I ended up giving it a 3.5, but it's really more of like a 3.25, and it's very unenthusiastic 3.25, because, like I said, I was entertained. I wouldn't call it a bad movie, so it's definitely not going to go below 3 for me. And there's definitely a lot of things I liked about it, but it was disappointing. So yeah,
if I added my disappointment level to it, it would be a 2. But when I looked at my scores at things that were like 2.5 and whatever, was like,
that's partially what I came up with, because I saw the movies I gave 3 to. I'm like, oh, this is definitely, I like this more than all those. So I guess I get this one's 3.5, and yeah.
So like in my heart, it's a 2-star, but by scores throughout the rest of the year, it's a 3. That's our non-spoiler review. Let's jump into some spoiler discussion. So everyone who has not seen it yet, who does not want to be spoiled, here's your 5-second warning. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The original ending to the book is actually him crashing into the building. But obviously 9/11 happened, and they weren't gonna fucking do that. So they make it roll and be like the bad guy, like, we're gonna just say you did this because it's the bad guy thing to do. But in the actual movie or actual book, he crashes it into the fucking building, and that's how the movie ends. That's how the book ends. So I was like, yeah. So they had to change that. So I was like, I get it.
Well, because even what we were seeing, I was kind of like, yee. And then if he had actually done it,
no, but that's the actual ending to the book. Once again, Stephen King can't write a good ending. But yeah, I will say the most enjoyable part of the movie, even though I badmouthed it, was definitely the Michael Cera scene. Once the mom goes out of the picture, because it was kind of like oh god, what movie was it? With fucking god damn it, not Novocaine. It's not Novocaine. I'm blanking on the actor's name.
Oh, Jack Quaid.
Jack Quaid. Oh god, what movie was it where he all of a sudden was like this like
that was in Heads of State.
Heads of State. Yeah, where all of a sudden he's just like, I got you guys. And you're like, this is so fucking smart. And then he just like starts effing everyone up. That scene with Michael Cera reminded me of that scene, but this was fun. And that scene was fun too. But like as soon as he got his mom out of the way, who was like I said, just horrifically awful acting. And they start just fucking up all the people. Like, this is the movie I was kind of hoping we were gonna get. And it's gone so quick. Also, another bad decision. You don't hire an actor like Lee Pace and not use him throughout the whole fucking film until the last 5 fucking minutes.
Well, that's the thing. The funny
oh
thing
my
is,
god, that pissed me off.
They had all the hunters. There's just one who wore this mask. They never showed his face. I'm like, that's gonna turn out to be somebody we know. I don't know who it's gonna be, but it's definitely gonna be somebody because of the way they're hiding his face. And so I was sitting there trying to think who. But then at some point later in the movie, I was thinking, wait a second. I swear I remember Lee Pace was in this movie. And we haven't seen him yet. So that's gotta be him.
I remember seeing his name pop up going, oh, Lee Pace is in this, sweet. And then I think it was right when the Amelia stuff happened. I was like, wait, I feel like we're nearing the end of this movie. Where is Lee Pace? And then of course I'm like, tall, lanky guy. Yep. Fuck, that's Lee Pace. Why aren't we using Lee Pace? Like, why aren't we using him at all? Because the whole movie, like, yeah, he's there, but it's kind of that other hunter that he kills in Michael Cera's like basement. That's kind of been like the focal point hunter, which that guy looked familiar, and I couldn't put my finger on him. But you can't have someone like Lee Pace and not. He's such a good actor, and to just have him just complete like I get he's an important character, but by that point of the movie, I'm checked out. Like by the time his character actually became it was an important fucking like this. Hey, this is what's gonna happen to you if you actually do join. And I was like, this is an important character. This character would have been more important an hour earlier.
Yeah.
Wait, just same thing with like the.
Well, that's the thing. Like in the '87 film, it's like half the fun of that movie was the hunters because I mean now they had stupid gimmicks. They had like the one who was like using electricity and the one who was like singing opera or not same actually. They had one who was like Sub-Zero, and it's just and it's like the hunters were fun. And this one is kind of just super bland. And then there's that one who they're going to do something with. It's going to try to be somebody. And like, I'm sure the whole audience, like me and you, were like, well, that's got to be Lee Pace. So, and so he was important in the end. But it's like, I don't know.
That's what annoys me.
Hunters didn't have that personality.
That's what annoys me even further, making me feel like, are we sure Edgar Wright actually directed this? This is the same guy who directed the 7 Evil Exes in Scott Pilgrim. You have these 5 hunters, and you somehow did not do anything unique with them. That is not Edgar Wright. That is something Edgar Wright totally 1,000% would have done and had fun with that. And each hunter would have probably had a unique battle with Glenn Powell's Ben Richards throughout the movie. It wouldn't have just been, let's put them all on a train or on a plane and just have Ben Richards shoot. No. Like I said, everything about this movie just felt wrong. Like here's Edgar Wright's way, here's what the studio wants, here's the bad way, let's do the bad way. Everything about this movie just felt like I was like, no, I know Edgar Wright would have done this better. And I just felt like this wasn't his film because everywhere, going based on all of this past shit, I can see a version in my head of what Edgar Wright's Running Man would have been. And it was not this fucking movie. This was just bad in every way of what Edgar Wright would do. This, like I said, could just feel I could throw a dart into a cornfield and it would just be any random director. And like, yeah, they did Running Man. Not fucking Edgar Wright. Because none of this felt like him. And Josh Brolin, I thought he was fine for what he did. You know, I think he did a pretty good job as being the villain. But, you know, he's just a talking head on a screen for 95% of the fucking film. And Coleman Domingo does a good job of basically being like Stanley Tucci in Hunger Games. You know, I mean, he does a good job there. But it's literally like once the game starts and we're out in that world, it's like they just like, and I get that like there's like they didn't ever go back to his wife and his kid. But once again, you're at the end, you're supposed to believe that they killed them. You know, and it's just like, even at that point, I'm like, really, Ben? You're buying that? Like, you're actually buying in that you thought that they died? Because at this point, you should know how much bullshit this is and that this isn't accurate.
Yeah, but you don't know. I mean, it could be either way. I think there's definitely he should have at least kept that as a possibility in his mind.
Yeah,
but it's like,
but
they
no,
could be dead. They might not be dead, but you don't know if you can believe it or not.
But once again, they go back to, oh, in the beginning of the movie, he's so rage-inducing, and they like, oh wait, yeah, we forgot about this one character trait about Ben Richards. He gets so angry, so fucking fast. Let's do it right now, where he's not going to think straight. I'm like, no, it's like that one thing in a horror movie where it's like if the character's being smart throughout the whole film, and then you need them to be stupid for the plot to work, that's bad writing. And this is one of those things where it's like he's been pretty, for the most part, clever and smart. And then at this one moment, oh yeah, let's add back that trait where he's always fucking angry. And so he acts dumb. And that shit just irritated me. Because it was so out of character for the character that we had been watching for the last hour and a half. Now, the first 15 minutes, yes, that's a total, but no, that's not the same character. These are two separate characters at this point. And it just felt uneven the whole fucking time, which has bothered me profusely. I'm trying to think if there's really anything else to add. No good music. That's another Edgar Wright trait. Music wasn't anything memorable.
There's a few scenes where like he did like a needle drop, but it wasn't. None of them were like, they just kind of felt like in a song in any other movie.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Here's the ultimate decision of how well you like this movie. Choose which one's better, Running Man, Guns Akimbo, because of the same fucking film.
Guns Akimbo.
Guns Akimbo is 1,000 times better than Running Man.
I don't know if I'd say 1,000 times, but it's definitely my pick because that one is kind of the same concept, but that one is fun about it. This one's trying to play like a straight action movie, and it's like, no, you're taking away all the personality. And now, if we hadn't seen the previous version of it, we weren't comparing against anything, and if it wasn't these particular director and actor in that, our expectations might be lower, and we might have gone to this like really enjoyed this movie. But given that it's a story we've seen another version of, and it's a director and stars that we really love, we just expected so much more of it, and it's disappointed.
I feel like we're going to be talking about this at year's end on a list that's not a good list, because of where we both had this anticipated. It's very, very possible. But what were your guys' thoughts? Did you guys think about it the same way we did, where it just did not work for you, or did you guys love it? Which, if you did, more power to you. I'm glad you guys had fun with it. It just did not work for me, and it worked kind of for Brian. Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to follow us on all the social media apps you see below. Coming up next, like I mentioned earlier in the show, Predator Badlands came out this month, but we decided to hold off on doing a review for that and Alien Earth because we wanted to do a collective franchise review, basically, of the Alien Predator universe. So that's going to be coming out here very, very soon. So check out that. In terms of the next big film, at least I'm excited about it. Brian used to be, if you went back 2 years ago, Wicked for Good. Part 2 of Wicked comes out, which, like I said, if you would have rewound last year before Wicked came out, Brian would have probably been giddy about this. And now he's just probably like, ugh. And now I'm the one excited. So I might review that just on my own because I don't know if Brian's even going to watch it. and B, want to even talk about it. So
I've already got tickets to go see it on Monday with Amazon
you get on
screenings.
Monday?
Yeah,
Lucky
there
you.
were special screens, but my son really wanted to see it, so I'm like, fine, I'll take it.
Yeah, so I'll unless Brian decides he has a change, and wants to actually talk about it, we'll talk about it here probably next week.
Maybe I will have been changed for good.
Yes. But until next time, I'm Sean Walsh Crew. That's Brian Michaels. We are the Movie Crusaders. Until next time, in case we don't see you, go watch some movies and go have some fun.
You're still here. It's over. Go home.